What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hoax Series. I'm your host, Tyler, joined by my co-host, James. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, James. So today's topic for Hoax is going to be ladder drills for speed and quickness. What gives here? So these ladder drills, you see them all over the Instagram for footwork. You know, these dudes are chopping in and out. Looks awesome. But is this going to make you faster and quicker? Hoax.
So I'm going to go with hype for speed, but hoax for sport specificity.
Okay. I'm going to actually hit... this is I will be honest with you. I just had like a quick almost change in thought, but I still think I'm pretty strong on the hoax train here. And there are some caveats that I will have to say that there is a little bit of hype in there. But on average, I actually think the ladder drills are a bit of a hoax. So go ahead, James. I'll let you go ahead and take it first.
Well, I'm going to go with hype because, again, what we're really just trying to activate, right, and looking at those muscle fibers is the speed itself. So I think, again, a lot of times you see these videos, and so one of the things that always kind of irks me is that you'll see is that they're usually not that accurate with their foot placement. So when I start to see the ladder kind of dance around and it's clear that the athlete is actually missing the target, right, the open box, and is instead stepping all over the ladder, again, are we really using the intention of the drill? Now, do I think we're actually increasing our quickness and our ability to accelerate and move quickly? I do think we should be hyping up. Do I think that these drills are actually very specific to the sport? How important do I think accuracy is? Right, I think that's a bit of a hoax and really not that useful of a tool. I think we could still train speed in other ways and making sure we're still activating that foot motion and that foot speed. Yeah,
I purely like it for pattern recognition. So for instance, I currently work with a diverse population. So I work with 60 plus, but I also work with some incoming freshmen that are high school athletes that are like baby giraffes. They don't know what to do with their bodies yet. So, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, I have a clientele that might be stuck in their ways, right? Train an old dog, new tricks type of mentality, which can be difficult. And I think personally, I like it for pattern recognition. So 1 foot in every box. Let's go ahead and really train these neuromuscular connections here to get the pattern recognition. What I'm asking for input is what I'm getting for output. Until that happens, typically all these other speed specific drills or sprints or, plyometrics, the whole nine, we kind of have to start with pattern recognition first. Can you listen to what your body is trying to do and actually do it and put it down on the floor? That's where I think the ladder is solid. But for purely speed and quickness, I think there is 100 other ways that I would purely train speed and quickness over doing it on a ladder.
Interesting. And are you looking more at, just out of curiosity, are you looking at overall lower body speed, or are you looking more at ankle mobility and speed? So,
good question. So I would just say general speed. And when we look at speed, we have to have direction, or we actually don't have direction. Let me backtrack there. That's more velocity there. So when we're talking about speed, we're just talking about displacement, like from point A to point B. But how quickly do you get there? And I think when you're chopping up and down and you're doing all these other mechanics, I think that you can train those segmented separately and get more out of it than if you're in a ladder, like you said, in these confines. Because stride length discrepancies, there's a lot of other things that come to mind that I would like to train speed, quite literally for speed. I don't think you get speed training out of a ladder because of the confines. Now, quickness, the ability to change direction or reproduce that force or produce it quickly, so acceleration, maybe you can train some of those things. But again, chopping up and down is not a normal pattern I see in sport for most sports. And that's essentially what the ladder is. It's a lot of foot chopping or feet chopping, leg chopping versus actual linear motion, so point A to point B. They don't travel quickly forward or backward on the ladder. At least that's what I see.
All right, so then I think based on what you're telling me, I think I might actually be switching my opinion here.
Does that make sense, though? I mean, I'm interested to hear like how you heard that as well, because that's the way I see a ladder. It's a lot of up and down, but it's not necessarily an actual transfer of force down into the ground, actually accelerating forward.
Well, I think that's what's always kind of bothered me about the ladder drills is that lack of sport specificity, right? That's not like you said, that's not really a sport movement pattern with the exception of maybe some very, very few corner cases. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of one of those things that, you've really kind of helped elucidate for me is that looking at, is this pattern and is this quote unquote quickness with this chopping up and down, is that actually useful for sport? And if you're not doing that in your sport, you may be quicker in that pattern, but you never actually are going to use that, in which case, I think I'm going to have to actually be swayed toward Hoax on this one.
Right. It's that transfer to the field that comes to mind. Now, I do think if you told me, James or Tyler, what about a soccer player, man? They have to be within confines, one-on-one footwork within really tight confines, chopping up and down, trying to play with the ball, try to basically be a magician within, a foot radius or a foot and a square foot. Then I would say, yeah, the ladder drills for a soccer player, I could honestly get some buy-in from that for specificity. But I don't think there's as much specificity in these other sports that are more linear in motion or translatory in motion is the way that I would see that. So, but all right, so you're changing a little bit. I appreciate you kind of elaborating on that, and yeah, I like it for pattern recognition, teaching the basics of speed, mechanics, sure, but again, actual transfer to the field. I've got so many other ideas in my head, so I'm gonna continue on the Hoax side of things.
All right, sounds like Hoax it is. So yeah, I'm going to be switching over to the Hoax as well. And like you said, I think there's maybe a few applications, but for overall use, and should we be super excited about this, I'm gonna switch to Hoax.
Boom.